Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory is due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, great millstone, who all learned this truth from the well. Peace and salutation to the 144,000, the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude. Until I say shalom, coming to you back with another Let's Do the Spirit. And I'm entitled this one, The Self-Proclaimed White Man has his recompense coming soon. And who is a white man known today, who is his true identity, spoken about in the scriptures, will be none other than Esau, Edom, which is the twin brother of Jacob, whose name was later changed to Israel. Today, the descendants of Esau, Edom would be the so-called white people, the Caucasians. The only people upon the planet Earth that really don't have any melanin. A lot of them have blonde hair, blue eyes. Ultimately, leprosy, that mark of Cain, being set upon the Edomites, which today would be the white people. But you do have a lot of so-called white people that really go back to the nation of Israel, because the nation of Israel has been scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. So you're going to have a lot of white people that really go back to Jacob, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Because Esau does go back to Abraham and Isaac, but that's where that separation is drawn. But one thing that our people don't understand, the ones that aren't in the truth, 2/3 of the nation of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, one thing that they don't understand is why the so-called white man, Esau, Edom, hates him so much. Why he has that deep hatred, so-called racism, which is deeper than that. Jake think that it's just because of the color of the skin, because you may be so-called black or so-called Latino and have brown skin. You may have woolly hair or curly hair, whatever it may be. The hatred, it runs way deeper than that. It's spiritual, because Esau, Edom, he sold his birthright to Jacob for a morsel of meat, because he was desperate. That's the characteristics of a so-called white man. Desperate. He's a hunter. He's a murderer. And ultimately, that's the reason why he's trying to do away with the nation of Israel. And he's always tried, but ultimately, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai said that the nation of Israel will never be done away with. That's why he's going to come down with that great wrath, or he's coming down with that great wrath right now, really, especially on the northern kingdom, with the whole ICE situation. But it's going to get to the point where he's just not going to arrest Jake no more. He's going to start putting him to death, because he's trying to do away with the nation of Israel, because he wants that birthright back. Ultimately, that's why he's mad. He's angered. He wants that birthright back, but we know that he's not going to be able to get it back, because he's already promised to the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which are the 12 tribes of Israel, of the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. That's why Esau, Edom, has constantly had that deep and perpetual hatred towards the Israelites. But we know that he's not going to get that birthright back. So all the abominations, all the atrocities, the killings, the murder, the bloodshedding of Jake, he's not going to get away with it, because a lot of our people, they think that the so-called white man is just going to get away free, right into the sunset, after all he's done to our people. Enslaved us, whipped us, did all sorts of abominable things that we don't even know about, that we're not going to know until we're put in those new bodies. Because if we was to know all the abominations that the so-called white man really did to the nation of Israel, then we will give up the spirit. That's ultimately why Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is going to have to put us in those new bodies, and allow us to find out what he truly and everything he did to the nation of Israel, because Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is going to have to put his indignation upon us to really whoop this devil's ass and put our foot up his ass for 1,000 long years of hardcore slavery, then eventually put him away, put him in that fire to utterly destroy him, because the nation of Edom, Esau, Edom, is the only nation upon the planet Earth that is promised no mercy. After the kingdom of heaven gets built up, after those 1,000 long years of slavery of the heathen being subjects under the nation of Israel, the rest of the heathen nations, the so-called Chinese, the Moabites, the Indians, the Elamites, the Hamites, the Africans, they're going to be able to go back to, really the only ones that are benefited are the wicked elite. The rest of these Edomites, you got some Esau, some Edomites that are doing pretty well off for themselves, but ultimately the ones who are hoarding the 99% of the wealth are the wicked elite. This is Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. So the daughter of Edom, Babylon the Great, America, we're at that point where this kingdom is about to fall, but Yahweh Shema Shai said, enjoy it while it lasts, because after this kingdom falls, that's it for Esau, Edom. There's not going to be another revival of the Roman Empire. This is as good as it gets. And it's getting to the point where everybody's tired of the white man. Everybody's starting to wake up to the fact that he's really the devil that the Bible speaks of. So the Esau, Edom, the white man, that cup that we had to drink of is going to be passed on to them, double, like it says right here. The punishment, verse 22, the punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. And the punishment of Esau, of the nation of Israel, is almost up. Now we're at that point where the curses are slowly being lifted away from us, but we know they're not going to be fully lifted away from us till we get changed into those new bodies. But for now, they're slowly being transferred unto these other heathen nations, but especially Esau, Edom, the white man. This is Revelation chapter 13 and verse 10. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and faith of the saints. So just like we had to go into captivity, for going off, for breaking the first covenant, these damn Edomites, they're going to have to repay for all the abominations, all the killing, all the bloodshedding they did to the nation of Israel. They're not going to get away for putting that hell upon Jake. Yahweh Shema Shai is going to answer them accordingly. He's going to put them in slavery after the elect come down from the chariots and pull these wicked elite, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, out of the bunkers. Because you got a lot of people that think that somehow Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, is going to get away with everything that he's done. But no, he has a recompense coming for him. After the elect pull them away from those bunkers, pull them out the cliffs of the rocks, then they're going to be put in chains and be put in that 1,000 long year hardcore drawn out slavery. And after that, then that's it. They're going to be put to death, be utterly destroyed, and there's never going to be another Edomite. There's not going to be a root nor branch left of the nation of Edom, which are the so-called white people. This is Numbers chapter 35 and verse 33. So you shall not pollute the land wherein ye are, for blood it defileth the land, and the land cannot be cleansed of the blood that is shed therein, but by the blood of him that shed it. And where has a lot of blood been shed for the nation of Israel is here in America, which is Babylon the Great. This is where the 12 tribes have been put in slavery and put to death. You had the conquistadors come in and enslave the northern kingdom first, around the 1500s. Then right after, you had Esau, Edom, go into West Africa and get the southern kingdom and bring them over here in chains, yokes of iron into America, through the ships. And Esau, Edom, he shed a lot of blood of the Native Americans, the so-called the so-called Native Americans, which are the tribe of Gad and the tribe of Reuben. He went down there to the land of Mexico and put, the so-called Mexicans, which are the tribe of Issachar. And he went all throughout the Americas, Puerto Rico, the islands, just putting Jake to death, trying to do away with the nation of Israel. But we know that Yahweh Bashim Shai wasn't going to allow that, because there was always that remnant. But for doing all that to the nation of Israel, he's going to have to suffer that same punishment, which that's why that great destruction is going to take place here in America, which is Babylon the Great. To cleanse the earth out of this bloody, corrupted land, which was shed by Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. That's the only solution. That's the only way for him to pay for what he did to the nation of Israel. He has that recompense coming very soon. But first, before this place gets utterly destroyed, you're going to have a lot of race wars. You're going to have, the tribes, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, gathering up, carnally to try to, or they are going to put a lot of these so-called white people, Esau, Edom, they're going to delete them, for what they did to the nation of Israel, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. This is Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 18. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble. And they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord hath spoken it. So over here in the souls of America, 2/3 of Jake, they're going to have to get put to death, and get destroyed along with the heathen, the Edomites, whatever heathen nations are over here. But the house of Jacob isn't going to be utterly destroyed. You're still going to have that remnant is going to get delivered up into the chariots. But once Esau, Edom gets done serving that 1,000 long year period of helping building the kingdom of heaven up here on the planet Earth, then that's it. That's their ads. They're going to get utterly destroyed, and there will never be another Edomite left. That's the recompense that the so-called white man has coming. And a lot of Jake doesn't like that, especially these Christians, these other Israelite camps. They want to include Esau and Israel's blessing. But no, ultimately only the nation of Israel is going to fully get to enjoy the kingdom of heaven and be rulers upon the planet Earth. The rest of these heathen nations, they're going to be subject under the nation of Israel. The Edomites, they're going to have to serve their 1,000 long year slavery, and then they're going to be completely done away with. They're the only nation that is not going to receive any mercy for everything that they've done to the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, which are the true Israelites that the Bible speaks of. But that's pretty much the point. I pray this is edifying to the elect. I want to give all praise and honor and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem HaKadosh. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, following this truth from the well. Peace and salutation to the 144,000, the rest of the 1/3, the large multitude, and to you I say shalom.